Month. And Pride Month also means queer books. I mean, I read queer books pretty much all year round because why not? But I thought I'd give you a rundown of queer books. So I have 24 queer books for you today that I will explain and tell you about and tell you why you should read them. And I think we're just getting straight into this because there are a lot of books sitting here waiting for me to talk about. Yay! It wouldn't be a good Pride Month without me mentioning Alice Oseman at least once. So I'm mentioning them at the beginning. Alice Oseman, in case you did not know, is an Arrow Ace author, and they wrote the Heartstopper series and literally everything else on this pile. So let's just jump straight into them. So in my opinion, what you want to do is you want to start with the graphic novels. Now these are the graphic novels. They are a little bit messed up, but that is alright. Here we go. We have book 1, which is Heartstopper Volume 1, Heartstopper Volume 2, 3, 4, 5. You see the point of this? They're numbered, alright? It's easy with the numbers. But essentially, this is the story of Nick and Charlie. If you've seen the Netflix show, these graphic novels are very good. Even if you're not usually a reader, this graphic novel, like, you can get through one of these in like an hour, 1.5 hours tops. They're so good. I love the art style. I love how they managed to capture the essence of Nick and Charlie in the series. It's just so incredibly good, and I am just obsessed with them. Later in the books, you've got to be a little careful if that triggers you. There is a lot of mentioning of eating disorders. Moving on to the rest of the Alice Oseman books, I would also say be cautious because each and every one of these books has trigger warnings. Alice Oseman has a list on their website for the trigger warnings, so that's specifically what you want to look out for if something triggers you. I'm going to mention a few things, but I will definitely not be remembering everything. The first book I want to talk to you about is Solitaire. This is maybe the most subtle queer book because Tori is an asexual, and because these are young adult books, the characters are obviously not being intimate with each other, so that's not what you will see and hear, but it is still known that Tori is an asexual, and this is Tori's story of school. And if you don't know who Tori is Charlie's older sister. So in this case, there is this character, Solitaire, that writes notes in the school, and Tori is trying to figure out who Solitaire is because she wants to stop Solitaire because Solitaire can potentially be dangerous. So this is that story. It's very cute. The other one that is also connected to this entire storyline is Radio Silence, which is the book that I would suggest you read next. So this is about Frances and Alid, and it's such a great story about friendship. So Radio Silence is about a girl who does fan art. She does fan art of her favorite web show, and that is Radio Silence. And it's like a radio show that is sent out of this fictional city that is kind of like an apocalyptic world. It's such a cute friendship arc in this, like the friendship. It's the best. It's the absolute best. I don't know what else to tell you. And then we move on to 2 books that are not necessarily connected. You can read all of these books separately, by the way. They don't need to be read together. But next up we have I Was Born for This and Loveless. Loveless is probably the book I talked about the most by Alice Oseman just because this is just incredible. It does a beautiful job at learning and figuring out your asexuality and your aromantic orientation. It's so beautiful. It's about Georgia, who's new in college, and she doesn't know what she wants to do. She's like, okay, maybe it's time for me to finally have my first relationship. Like, maybe that's what I need to finally become myself, to finally be happy, and to understand what other people want. I absolutely love Georgia, and I wish her all the best. I just want her to be happy. And also, like, I'm sorry, but right now I'm wearing a Loveless t-shirt because this is my absolute favorite book. And now the light's gone. There's a cloud. We're moving on with the last one, I Was Born for This. This is about a trans character who is in a band. So he's in a very, very popular band, and this band is like the biggest band ever, right? And then we also like deal a lot with anxiety and how trans people are perceived in the world, and like a lot of hatred, obviously. And it's just, again, a beautiful, beautiful story that I could not tell you. Like, you need to read this. It's so good. I love it. Next up, we're moving to another queer author. We're moving to Rachel Lippincott. I'm just gonna say that. I'm not sure if it's Rachel, Raquel, something. We're just gonna deal with it because I have 2 books by her. So, first of all, we have She Gets the Girl, which is the book that she wrote together with her wife, Alison Derrick. And then we have The Lucky List. There is a 3rd book that I haven't read yet. I'm not sure if that is a queer relationship or not. I haven't read it yet, so I can't tell you. But these 2 are about queer relationships, specifically about sapphic relationships. Now, if you don't know what sapphic relationship is, that is a girl-girl relationship. That's essentially what it means. So, we have She Gets the Girl, which is a romance about Molly. Molly has a huge crush on Cora, and Alex, who is not really her friend, but she just exists as well. Alex is like, you know what, I'm gonna help you. You're like a lost cause. I'm gonna help you get Cora. It's so cute. It's also a YA romance, and it's just so cute how she's just like learning about life, and she's growing up, and she's then like obviously realizing that maybe Alex is actually more compatible with her than Cora could ever be. And then this one is kind of like a bucket list romance story. It's beautifully written. It's so cute as well. All of these are so cute. So yeah, we have Emily, and Emily has always thought of herself as a very lucky person. Things always went very well. But then her mom died, and now she made a list in order to like regain her luck and to be happy again. And some of those points on that list are get a tattoo, get over the fear of heights, skinny dip in a pool, and kiss her crush. It's a cute book, alright? It's a very cute book. Alrighty, next up, we're moving to the probably most popular queer romance books out there for obvious reasons. Like, who hasn't heard of Red, White, and Royal Blue? If you've seen the movie on Amazon Prime, maybe you want to read the book. It's a lot better. Huh? Sound good to you? These are by Casey McQuiston. They are a queer author as well, and this is also the same author that wrote One Last Stop. Red, White, and Royal Blue is a romance between the son of the American president and the British prince. That's it. These 2 are in a secret relationship. Technically, they first start out as enemies, and then they quickly realize that they actually are very much into each other, and this is their romance. It's the cutest thing ever. It's so beautiful. It's honestly like the best thing ever. And then in this one, we have One Last Stop, which is a kind of a little supernatural, I would say, just because there is one aspect of it. So when our main character moves to New York, she has to get a job. She doesn't know what to do. So she's new in town, and she gets on the Q train, which is a subway in New York, as far as I know, I think. So these 2 then meet on the Q train, and it's just, they hit it off. They have the best time. And the thing is that when our main character gets off this train, the girl's just gone. She's just disappeared. It turns out she is stuck in time on this train, and she has been stuck for 20 years on this train. She doesn't know what's going on. She doesn't know what's happening. So their plan is to figure that out together, and during that, they fall in love. It's so good. Next up, we're moving to Imogen, obviously. This is a very, very cute romance about figuring out your sexuality and figuring out how to deal with it, learning to accept yourself the way you are, and just like falling in love in college. So Imogen goes to college, and she is then kind of like adopted into her best friend's friend group, and in order to like exist in this friend group, she kind of like, they kind of make up a story that they actually dated, because Imogen is like, she's an ally through and through, and her best friend is a lesbian, and she's like, you know what, just like pretend that I'm your ex and that we're now besties. So that's what they do, and throughout the book, Imogen realizes that maybe she's not just an ally. It's cute. And then next up, we've got The Charm Offensive. Now, this is a book that I just finished reading a few days ago, and it was amazing. So let me tell you about it. This is a book about Charlie and Dev, who are both guys. So this is a guy-guy romance. We have Charlie, who is essentially the bachelor. He's supposed to date 20 women and send one home each week, like it's a dating show, and he's in there. But Charlie is a little bit special. He is very, very neurodivergent. I want to say he might be autistic because honestly, Charlie and I are like the same person, but I cannot like diagnose him because he's not a real person, and the book says that he's OCD, so that just might be that, but he feels very, I'm getting the autism, like I'm feeling it. Anyway, so this is about Charlie, and Charlie doesn't like to be touched. Charlie doesn't actually like to talk to people. He's just like he gets very anxious. He has like anxiety attacks all the time. But he still does this dating show, and nobody knows why. In comes Dev. Dev works for the TV show. He's one of the producers, and he's gonna be Charlie's handler. So he's like looking out for him and making sure that he looks good, making sure that he's fine. That's Dev's job. And the two of them fall in love. It's just so good. It's so nice. The communication in this book, except for the obvious like problematic part, is very well done. I love this. I had a great time and I loved this book so much. Now the next one is a maybe controversial choice to put in here, but I still thought that it was very important to put it in. So we have Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. Now, essentially, I have to say this, in most of Ali Hazelwood's books, the characters are demisexual, so it takes a while for them to develop sexual attraction to somebody. But in this book specifically, we have an aro ace side character that is very, very important to the storyline, that is like not one of the main parts of the couple, obviously, because it's an aro ace character, but it's just a very important character that I still want to mention, and that's just like really important in this, and it made me happy to have this representation in this book. That's why I'm mentioning it, but I'm not gonna tell you anymore. It's a science-y romance. You've heard about this before. It's, by the way, my favorite Ali Hazelwood book, so just so you know. But I think now it's time to make the jump towards fantasy a little bit. So we're starting this jump with a book that isn't necessarily really fantasy. They both die at the end. This is still a romance, but we kind of have a futuristic society. And in this society, you get a call at midnight on the day that you will die. And they call you and they're like, you know what, today's the day you're dying. Like, you're dying today. You're done. Both of our main characters get this call at midnight and they're both like, you know what, today is your last day. So what they decide to do is go online on like a last day friendship app and find a friend to spend their last day with, because one of them is kind of like alone and just doesn't want to be alone, and the other one is almost getting arrested. So they meet up, and obviously there's a little bit of tension there, there's a little bit of romance there. It's just overall cute, but be warned, this book will break your heart. It's just so good. It's a gay romance. It's so cute. I just love it. It's amazing. Let's move on to another one of those books that you don't really know where to put, because is it fantasy? Is it romance? Is it historical? It is The Song of Achilles, that's for sure. Now this book is by no means unpopular. Like, you've heard of The Song of Achilles before, and if not, then I don't know if you've ever stepped into a bookstore. That was mean, anyway. But The Song of Achilles is a historical romance with a little bit of a fantasy aspect, obviously, because it's the Trojan War. So this is a retelling, essentially, out of the perspective of Patrolochus, who is a Greek prince who was, when he was like 7 years old, supposed to marry Helen of Sparta, who at this point wasn't Helen of Sparta, but Helen, right? The beautiful Helen. He didn't, obviously. And because his father was so ashamed of him, he sent him to this other king to just like train and exist there. But that's also where Achilles was and where Achilles trained. So the two of them met, the two of them like became best friends, hung out, then they become lovers, and then the worst thing in the world happens and the Trojan War breaks out. Achilles, because he is the best warrior in all of Greece, has to go fight in this Trojan War. So they go to this war, they fight in this war, and it's their romance throughout all of that, and it is so sad. This book broke my entire heart into so many pieces that I cannot find any of them. Like, I'm still missing pieces because they're somewhere scattered by this book. You could not convince me otherwise, but I think Madeline Miller was like, I'm gonna break some hearts today. I'm gonna shatter some souls, and I'm gonna do it with pride. And that is this book. Next up, I'm gonna mention a book that maybe you forgot that it was actually queer, because I think it's very important that we mention this, because these are people that are oftentimes overlooked. This is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. If you are now thinking, like, why on earth would that book be queer? It's a guy and a girl. Yes, it is a queer romance, because one of the people is bi. I forgot what his name was, okay? I don't remember his name. Because Henry, the main character, is bi. He had a relationship with a guy before, and then he starts having feelings for Eddie LaRue. So, it is a queer romance, so let me tell you about it. If you've not read The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue, it is about Eddie, who is, when she was very young, was supposed to marry this horrible guy that she didn't want to marry. She didn't want to have anything to do with him, so she begged and begged for somebody to help her, to save her. She ran away. She was like, please, please, please help me. And the only person who answered was death. He tells Eddie, okay, you know what? You're never gonna have this problem again. I can make it that you never have this problem. And you're gonna be just fine, and you're gonna be left alone by everyone. Eddie says, give me it. I just don't want this anymore. And with that, everybody forgets who Eddie LaRue is. Nobody knows she exists. She just lives day to day, and nobody ever remembers her until one day when she meets Henry in a bookstore. So then, suddenly, they start this relationship because Henry is the only person that can remember her. But she's also confused because why is Henry the only person that can remember her? It's so good. I had a good time reading this. I read this ages ago and I still remember it, which is just mind-blowing to me. So that is The Invisible Life of Eddie LaRue. This is technically on my science fiction shelf. This is Cryer's War. It's very shiny. I don't like it when books are this shiny, but we're just gonna deal with it. Cryer's War is, as I said before, more of a sci-fi sapphic romance. We had different races who fought against each other, and the humans lost those battles, right? So the ones who are currently, like, at the position of power in this world are kind of like droids who have, like, machinery and who are made to be perfect. And they're technically not really able to have real feelings. Cyborgs, that's the word I was looking for before, cyborgs. Technically, by the way, they're called autome, but in my head, they're just cyborgs. The human, in this case, she is like the servant of the princess cyborg. It's cute, okay? It's like a cute romance and a very nice fantasy. It's like, there's a lot of action in this, there's a lot of feelings, there's a lot of angst because you are always like looking for what's happening next. It's beautiful. It's a YA fantasy. It's cute. Let us move to another YA fantasy. This is Girl Serpent Thorn. This is a kind of like Middle Eastern fantasy where our main character is born with the power of death. So whatever she touches, it just dies within seconds. And she's just like, she's super scared. She doesn't know what's going on. She just wants it to stop. And she lives in this kingdom where there is another species that is like deadly and they kill everything in their wake and they're at war with them. So they catch one of the other species, and she then goes to meet them because she's like, okay, maybe my power is their power because they can also kill very, very good. So she's like, can you help me? And this girl that was captured is like, I can help you, but for a price. It's gorgeous, beautiful. It's a sapphic romance again with a lot of mystery, but also like a lot of betrayal. It's the best. Honestly, so much fun. Next up is my absolute favorite fantasy book in the world. This is The Priory of the Orange Tree. I have told you about this book multiple times before, so I'm gonna keep it short, because I could ramble on about this book for hours, and we don't want that. So, The Priory of the Orange Tree is a huge, huge fantasy book with dragons, dragon riders, but the main storyline that we have here is about a queendom and a prophecy that was made, that once the queen of this land dies and once her line is discontinued, the great dark dragon that's like sleeping at the bottom of the ocean. He's gonna reawake. The Nameless One is what this dragon is called, by the way. He's gonna reawake and destroy everything, kill everybody, and just like bring on the end of times. So we have our main character, Eid, who is then trying to protect this queen. And Eid is a mage, so she knows a little bit of magic, and she's a great warrior, and she's just like there, and she's like, I'm gonna save you. It's so good. There is a kind of like romantic feelings between Eid, the bodyguard essentially, and the queen. I just want everybody to read The Prior of the Orange Tree. This is the next one, A Touch of Gold and Iron. This is the story about a prince. And he's just supposed to have diplomatic function, right? So he's supposed to talk to people and be like, you know what, welcome to the kingdom, hi, hi, hi. He's the brother of the queen. And he kind of fails because as far as I remember, he accidentally unalives an ambassador that comes to visit. At least something bad happens to that ambassador, right? And he's like, it was an accident, I'm so sorry. And because he needs constant supervision, he gets a new bodyguard. So this bodyguard and him, they're then like trying to exist and be like civil with one another because they don't actually like each other because everybody is just angry at this prince, but he's trying to prove himself. And in order to prove himself, he then figures out that there is something wrong going on in this kingdom. Somebody is messing with the magic of the kingdom and he wants to fix it. He's like, I'm gonna do it. He assembles a team of very, very queer friends. Like, it's just the cutest. It's a little bit of a found family there as well. And with this team, he then tries to essentially save the magic, save the kingdom, save his sister. It's beautiful. And of course, throughout this book, he falls in love with his bodyguard and it's beautiful. So that is A Taste of Gold and Iron. Let's move on to the last book that I have. Ta-da! It is Cemetery Boys. You thought I wouldn't mention Cemetery Boys, did you? No, I will definitely be mentioning Cemetery Boys because this is one of my favorite books. It's a great one. I love this. Let me tell you what it's about. We have our main character. His name is Yadriel? I think it's Yadriel. I'm not sure how to pronounce this name. Anyway, Yadriel is a trans man, and his family struggles with this because his family has a sort of magic where every single man in the family is able to like summon ghosts on Halloween and talk to them and see the future. So that's like a family tradition that they do every year. And Yadriel isn't allowed to do it because they're unsure if he is accepted because technically he wasn't born a man, so why would he be able to do this? Why would he be able to summon a ghost? So Yadriel is like, you know what? Screw all of you, I'm gonna do this anyway. He goes out at night and he summons a ghost by himself. And that ghost happens to just be Julian. Julian has no idea what happened to him. Yesterday he was alive, now he's not anymore. The two of them go to school together, and Julian is kind of like the bad boy of the school, and he's always just like messing things up. So these two then trying to figure out what happened to Julian. Why is he dead? Why is he a ghost now? What's going on? And also like find his body and also help Julian fix up his life and fix up his relationships now that he's dead. It's so cool. It's cute. And of course, at some point during the story, the two of them have a lot of chemistry and they fall in love. For somebody who doesn't want love for herself right now, I am obsessed with fictional love. Anyway, it has just the perfect amount of family relationships, friendships, romances, and also mystery and fantasy that this is, in my opinion, like it's a perfect book. It's like perfectly assembled. It's beautiful. I love it. Alright, and with that, we are done. So with that, I'm gonna leave you guys. I'm gonna leave you all to have a beautiful weekend, and I hope to see you all for the next video. As always, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, and I will see you for the next video that I make. Goodbye, everybody! I am realizing now that this is a mess. A huge mess, but we have to deal with it. So yeah. Oh yeah. I also have so many more on my TBR for like queer books that I want to read. It's so much. I have so many books that I still need to read. Anyway, have a lovely day and I will see you soon. Bye!